Ah, traveler, it's always good to see you. I have a tale, if you have time to listen.
Congratulations, he told his reflection in the shield's dull surface. You are now officially Graveyard Trash Knight, first of his name, breakable as hell. He sighed to himself as the lantern glowed with a knowing light. He swayed, vision tunneling, until he saw it, the lantern, burning bright in the center of the crossroads, glowing gold, warm, steady, impossible. When did that? The hollowed man knelt beside it, worshipping it like a shrine. Rodney stumbled toward the light, reaching out with what little life he had left. Please, he begged silently. Please, goddess, please. I tried. His fingers brushed the flame. It swallowed him whole. Fire roared through him, not hot, not cruel, but purifying. Layer by layer, the agony peeled away, his flesh rebuilding, bones knitting, skin sealing, blood returning to his veins. His arm grew back in a shimmering blur of light. When the fire faded, he stood, whole again. The hollowed man smiled lazily, rocking beside the lantern. Frank told you. Frank knows. Lantern warm. Lantern safe. His eyes were cloudy, distant. The others didn't listen. His voice thinned to almost nothing. They were eaten. Rodney turned slowly, heart still hammering. The zombies' bodies lay scattered, real and unmoving. He deserved that loot. He earned it. The crossroads around him were quiet. Fog pooled low and thick, clinging to the ground like it didn't want to leave. 4 bodies lay where they'd fallen, twisted, broken, still. The zombies looked smaller now that they weren't moving, less like monsters, more like refuse that no one had bothered to drag off the road. Rodney stared at them. He knew what he had to do. He hated that he knew it so quickly. He took a slow breath, forcing his voice steady. Okay, he murmured. Loot, then freak out. Priorities. A dry, papery whisper murmured behind him. Lantern warm. Lantern safe. Stay close. Stay close. Don't stray. Don't stray. Rodney turned. The hollowed man sat near the lantern, almost pressed against the iron post like he was trying to crawl inside the light. Arms wrapped around his knees, back hunched, eyes half-lidded and staring at the flame as if it was the only thing left in the universe worth seeing. Rodney had heard him talk before the fight, half sense and half madness. At the time, he'd been too busy dying to really listen. Now the man's voice seemed woven into the fog, constant, low, looping. Warm glow, safe glow. Don't leave it, no, never leave it. The dark takes things, takes pieces. Rodney watched him for a moment. Frank rocked slightly with each whispered phrase, like a boat tethered in a black sea. He wanted to ask 100 questions. Instead, he turned back to the bodies. Loot first, freak out later, definitely later, hopefully never. He walked up to the first corpse, the one that had carried the sword and shield. Up close, the shield looked worse. From a distance, he'd thought it just had a dent. Up close, he could see the metal had been caved inward in a wide, ugly bowl, like someone had swung a wrecking ball or dropped an angry god onto it. Fine cracks spiderwebbed from the crater, reaching toward the rim like they were just waiting for an excuse to finish the job. Jesus, Rodney muttered. What did you block? A meteor? The corpse's arm was still locked through the straps, fingers clenched so tight it looked painful even in death. Rodney knelt and pried at them. The leather resisted, stiff with age and tacky with whatever passed for zombie residue. He braced his foot against the body's chest and yanked. The shield tore free with a sticky, peeling sound that made his skin crawl. For half a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, ping! A thin new crack etched itself along the edge of the metal, crawling like frost across glass. Rodney flinched. No, 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 not yet. You don't get to break yet. He slid his arm through the straps before the thing could change its mind. The weight dragged his left shoulder down, making his stance lopsided. Even just holding it, he could feel the damaged metal flex ever so slightly. Okay, he said under his breath. You're on borrowed time. So am I. We'll get along great. He looked at the sword next. It was better than a club. That was about the nicest thing he could say. The blade was short, halfway between a gladius and a big kitchen knife. Nicks lined the edge. A faint bend near the tip said somebody had tried to stab something very solid and lost the argument. The hilt wrap had mostly flaked off, leaving bare tang that bit into his palm. He picked it up anyway. The weight settled into his right hand with a familiarity he wished felt comforting instead of ominous. A tiny, guilty thread of pride tugged at his chest. Starting weapon, trash. Current loadout, still trash, but upgraded trash. Progress. He slid the blade experimentally between his fingers, then strapped the corpse's scabbard around his waist. The leather creaked in protest, but held. Thanks, man, Rodney muttered to the dead. Sorry I murdered you again after you murdered me first. We're even? The corpse didn't argue. He moved on to the next fallen zombie. This one wore chainmail, or what was left of it. At a glance, it looked solid enough. A shirt of interlocking rings hanging heavy over the rotted torso. But as Rodney tugged it free, whole clumps of links rattled loose and spilled onto the gravel, like coins dropping from a torn purse. Up close, he saw the truth. Half the rings near the center had been pulled out of shape, more oval than round. Some were split entirely, hanging open like broken jaws. Sections near the shoulders were bald, bare tunic peeking through where protection should have been. He held it up with both hands and let it sag. This is fine, he told himself. This is great. It's, ventilated. He forced the corpse's arms out of the sleeves and peeled the chainmail away. Each movement made another tiny shower of rings hit the ground with high, traitorous tinks. By the time he wriggled into the shirt himself, it felt less like armor and more like wearing a heavy, faintly cursed fishnet. The mail scratched at his skin. Some of the broken rings pinched whenever he moved. The weight dragged at his shoulders and settled on his spine like a disapproving hand. You are absolutely going to fail me, he told it. I can feel it in my bones. But he buckled it in place anyway. Marginally better than nothing was still better than nothing. The third corpse wore greaves. Leg armor, Rodney said, more to keep his brain busy than anything. Okay, cool. Let's pretend I know how those work outside of video games. The shin plates were dull and scuffed, edges marked with countless little dings. Deep gouges scored one side where something with claws had tried very hard to get through and mostly failed. Leather straps wrapped around the back of the calves, dry and cracked like old snakeskin. He eased them off the corpse. One strap disintegrated as he touched it, snapping apart in a quiet exhale of dust. Love that, he muttered. So reassuring. He slid the greaves over his own shins. The metal felt like putting his legs into cold coffins. He cinched the surviving straps as tight as they'd go, and, for the broken one, tore a strip from the dead man's ruined sleeve and tied a knot. As he straightened, something rattled inside the left greave and tumbled out. A small off-white shape bounced off his foot and settled in the dirt. A tooth. Rodney stared at it. We're not unpacking that, he decided quickly, stepping over it. The last corpse wore gloves. No, gauntlets. They were almost nice. Padded leather bracers with metal plates sewn onto the backs of the hands and along the fingers. The knuckle plates were thick and scuffed, one of them marked by a thin hairline crack running straight down the middle like somebody had punched a wall, and the wall had almost won. Next time. Rodney survived the crossroads. Barely. Now he has armor. Sort of. A cracked shield, rotting chainmail, greaves that spit teeth, and gauntlets that look like they lost a fistfight with a brick wall. In other words, perfect equipment for a level 1 idiot walking deeper into a haunted graveyard. But the graveyard isn't empty. Something big walks these paths. Something that breaks nights. Something that listens for bells. And Rodney is about to find out why the shield he just looted was smashed like it blocked a falling god.
Wasn't that interesting? Now don't forget to subscribe for more.
And ring the bell for your server.